Alright, I want to get started, so let's just go ahead. Ready? Alright. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. I want to start off with the Islamic Greeting. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, which simply means peace and blessings of God be upon you all. The Quran says in chapter 52, verse 35 to 36, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. Were they created from nothing? Or were they themselves the creators of themselves? Have they created the heavens and the earth? Surely they have no certainty. Basically saying that the atheistic position is only one of mere speculation. You will never achieve certainty on atheism. Because on the topic of how the universe came to be, you really have only four options. Option one, it came from nothing. This is a non-option. It's impossible. Something cannot come from nothing. In the history of philosophy, only a few have dared to push this type of argument, and they have all been utterly humiliated. I don't think any of us will go there, because we're all relatively intelligent. So what's the second option? The second option is that it created itself. Is it possible for the universe to create itself? Well, to say that the universe created itself is to say that the universe existed and did not exist at the same time, which doesn't make any sense. How can something exist and not exist at the same time? A good example of this would be like a mother giving birth to herself. Can a mother give birth to herself? No, it doesn't make any sense, right? So to say that the universe created itself doesn't make any sense. What's the other option? We have the option that the universe is eternal, that it has always been here. Now, is it possible for the universe to be eternal? Could it have always existed? Well, let's think about it. If the universe is eternal, that means the number of past events is an infinite amount of events. But if the number of past events is infinite, we would never get here in the first place, because those events would keep happening. They would never stop happening. So, to say that the universe is eternal would be committing an infinite regress fallacy. So the universe can't be eternal, both from a philosophical perspective and a scientific one, because science tells us that the universe had a beginning a finite time ago. What's the fourth option? The fourth option is that it was put into existence by something which had the capacity to do so. Something powerful and creative and knowledgeable enough to create the universe. And the thing is, this is a very easy way to arrive at the God conclusion. But if you want to make it even simpler, we can make it even simpler. And the way we can do that is by looking at three facts about our universe. If we look at these three facts, we can take a look at them and see, okay, what is the best explanation for these facts? So, fact number one. There is something rather than nothing. Okay? So the fact that there's something rather than nothing. Maybe this universe is a simulation. Maybe this table doesn't exist. Maybe we're in the Matrix. But we can say something exists. We can say this with absolute certainty. The fact that we're here to talk about it indicates that something exists. So far so good? Okay. Fact number two. Our universe is life permitting. How do we know this? How do we know this, guys? Because we're here. Because we're here to talk about it. So our universe is life permitting. And we actually had a whole meeting on this about the fine-tuning argument, right? About how there's certain constants in the universe, like the gravitational constant, electromagnetic constant, the expansion rate of the universe, all of these things. And everything has been carefully calibrated into a Goldilocks zone. Okay, the distance from the Earth to the Sun, right? The fact that we have life on this Earth, it wouldn't be possible without Jupiter. Because Jupiter sucks up all the asteroids which are on a course to hit Earth. So there's so many things which are perfectly put in place in order for us to exist. So the fact that we exist itself can be an argument for God, but we're going to keep it simple and say the universe is life permitting. Okay? Fact number 3. There is a uniformity to nature. So nature is uniform. What do you guys think I mean when I say that nature is uniform? I don't see any giraffes wearing UPA polos, right? Like, what am I talking about? What do I mean when I say that the universe is uniform? There's a uniformity to nature. What do you guys think?
There's like similarities between different, all animals have similarities, all plants have similarities.
Good guess. I'm not talking about nature as in alive stuff. I'm talking about just like physical stuff, like rocks, chemistry, like just stars, these types of things. Like if we make it even more basic.
They're all made from atoms?
Okay, so I think what you're going at is a more physical approach to things, right? Like you're looking at things physically. Let me ask you guys a question. You guys know around UPA there's a fence, right? There's a black fence around UPA. Was that something which just happened to be there, or was it something which was created by somebody? What do you guys think? It was created by somebody. But how did you arrive at that conclusion? How do you know? Like, what if the metal just happened to be in that shape? Would you guys say that's possible? Why?
It's out of place.
It's out of place, but the metal could have gotten there, right? Like the wind could have pushed it there or something. How do you know that that metal was created or designed by someone? What indication do you have that points you to a designer? So when we look at the fence, right? So the fence, it looks like this. It's got little, like those metal poles, right? So it's got a pattern. It's not just random metal all over the place. It's got a pattern to it. So you know that because of the pattern in the fence, someone has designed that. Because there's a pattern, there's a consistency, right? In the same way how if I take my phone and I press the power button, it's going to turn on. That's not a coincidence, that's how it's meant to be. When I press the power button, my phone turns on. Right? That's not just something which happens. That's how it was designed. When we look at the universe, it abides by certain laws. We have laws of nature, like laws of physics, laws of thermodynamics. These laws give the universe a type of coherency. There is order in the universe because of these laws. Because think about it. If the universe is random, then it should truly be random. Like 3 of you guys should go flying into the roof. My phone should explode. This building should get sucked into a black hole. Like anything can happen. The fact that there's order in the universe, there's certain laws which govern the universe, indicates that there is a law maker. I know this might seem confusing at first, right? Because if I ask you, why does gravity work? You're going to be like, well, it just works. Gravity works. But why does it work? Why does it work every single time? Why do we have these laws in the universe which allow us to do science? The uniformity of nature cannot be explained by science. It's presupposed by science. We need there to be a pattern in order to do science. And this is something Einstein himself recognized as well. Einstein said the most incomprehensible thing about our universe is that it is comprehensible. So the fact that there's a pattern, there's a coherency, there's a uniformity to nature is a miracle and cannot be explained on naturalism. So looking at these 3 facts, okay? There's something rather than nothing. Our universe is life permitting, and nature is uniform. What conclusion best fits the data? Let's be honest with ourselves. We went this route and we got God as our answer. But I'm saying we can make it even simpler and take a scientific approach and see, looking at this data, what is the best explanation? And it's so apparent that we are born with the instinct of believing in God. It's a scientific fact now that every baby, all of us were born believing in God. So the thing is, someone could make the argument, and I have in the past, that we actually don't need any arguments for God at all. We don't need any evidence at all. Because belief in God is something which is automatically within us. It's something which is super rational. Just like how when the baby is born, it has an instinct to suck on the breast of the mother. No one taught the baby how to do that. It's just an instinct. It just happens. No one questions it. In the same way, it's an instinct for babies and humans when they are born to believe in God. So someone could say that we actually don't need any arguments at all. But if someone comes to us with a question, we obviously need to be able to give an answer, which is why we have these things. Now we're going to get into the contingency argument. This was all kind of a precursor. Now the thing about the contingency argument, or any of these arguments in general, is that regular people, like the majority of people, A, don't need these arguments, and B, won't understand these arguments at all. So my parents don't know about this, neither do my grandparents, neither do 99.9% of Muslims around the world. Okay? So people don't need these in order to believe in God. So why do we have them? The reason why we have them is because there are going to be advanced skeptics, advanced atheists out there who need a proper refutation. That's why we have these, in order to basically combat them. And number two, the most people won't understand them. I'm not saying that to intimidate you guys. I'm just letting you guys know that if you guys walk out of here today and you guys don't really understand what I said, that's perfectly fine. That's normal. So don't worry about it. Because a lot of this stuff is a little bit more complicated than what we are ready for. But I just wanted to give you guys a little introduction so that next time you guys hear contingency, you guys kind of have an idea of what it's talking about. So without further ado, let's get into it. There is no doubt that there is existence. Let me say that again. There is no doubt that there is existence. Something exists. We can say this with absolute certainty. Something exists. I don't think any of us have a problem with that statement, right? Something exists. Maybe we're in the Matrix, maybe it's a simulation, whatever. There's something. Do we agree? Okay, cool. Existence is divided into three categories. Can the camera see the whole board, by the way? They can? Okay. Existence is divided into three categories. So I'm just going to list them off right here. And then we're going to go through and define them. We have impossible existence, possible existence, and necessary existence. Okay? Impossible existence. An impossible existence is something which cannot exist. Okay? So an example could be like a squared circle. Can a squared circle exist? No, it's a contradiction. Is it a square? Is it a circle? Like, what is it? You can't have a squared circle, right? Another example could be like Yasser's hairline. Doesn't exist. I'm just kidding. Me finding a wife. This is an impossible existence. It will never happen. If I find a wife, that means God exists, because miracles are possible. Okay. Impossible existence, something which cannot exist. Are we good? Okay, so far so good. Now we get to the important stuff. Next we have possible existence. A possible existence is something which doesn't have to exist. It can be another way. So it can be another way. I'm writing this down because we'll come back to this. A possible existence, it's something which can be another way. So something composed of parts. If something is composed of parts, it falls into the category of a possible existence. So for example, I'm wearing this Stanford, hey guys, quiet down. I'm wearing this Stanford sweater here, right? This is composed of parts. There's some plastic here, it's made of threads, it's got a sticker. This is a possible existence. It doesn't have to exist. If I take a lighter and I light it on fire, it'll burn and the matter will be dispersed. So this sweater doesn't have to exist. It falls into the category of possible existence. Another thing about possible existence is that it is dependent. Okay? And this is very important. Possible existences are dependent. What are they dependent upon? They are dependent upon their parts. So for example, I have a triangle here. Can you see? Can you see the triangle? Okay. The triangle has three sides. Side 1, 2, and 3. This triangle is dependent upon its parts. If I take away the third side of the triangle, is it a triangle anymore? No. So in order for the triangle to exist, side 1, 2, and 3 need to exist. Correct? So we can say that this triangle, it is composed of parts, and it is dependent upon those parts. You guys get it? Okay. So that is the definition of a possible existence. Something which can be another way, something which is dependent, something which is composed of parts. Now we get to necessary existence. What is a necessary existence? A necessary existence is something which has to exist. Okay? So it cannot be out of existence. So it must exist. And it cannot be composed of parts. Because if it's composed of parts, it falls into the possible existence category, meaning it can be arranged another way. So not composed of parts. What else must it be? It must be independent. So the necessary existence is independent. So once we have defined these definitions, the argument can actually be summarized in one sentence. It's actually only 9 words. And this sentence will change your life. Okay? Are you guys ready? Ready for this? The argument basically goes, there cannot be a world. Let me say that again. There cannot be a world with only possible existences. Why? If there is a world with only possible existences, that means everything depends on everything else, which ultimately means nothing would exist in the first place. So we can look at this mathematically as well, because this can be reasoned cosmologically, ontologically, and mathematically. For example, we have a set, right? Inside the set, we have certain things. Let's say we have dependent thing 1, dependent thing 2, D3, whatever. In order for this set to exist, you have 2 options. Either, let's get this out of the way. Either you have an independent outside in order for that dependent set to exist, or this thing itself is the independent. So which one do you guys think it is? Would you say it's because there's an independent outside, or can that thing itself be independent? Well, we said that anything composed of parts cannot be the necessary existence. It has to be dependent. This set is made up of parts. Can we imagine this set without D2? Yes, we can. Or we can imagine D2 and D3 switching places. So if the set can be composed in another way, and it is composed of parts, it falls into the category of possible existence. So this thing cannot be independent. So the conclusion that we must reach is that there is an independent outside which exists in order for that entire set to exist. I'll take questions at the end, because I don't think we have much time. I've got to get through this. Yeah. Now it's important to note that there is a difference between dependency and causation. The kalam argument, the cosmological argument, depends on causation. Basically, for those who weren't here, it just says everything has a cause. There can't be an infinite regress of causes, so therefore there had to be something at the beginning to start everything else. That's basically that. But some people attack causation, and they say, well, cause and effect doesn't exist. Fine, you can have causation. Wait a second, did you concede to that? Yes. You can have causation, take causation. There's no such thing as causation. The contingency argument, as I framed it, still stands, because it requires dependence. Dependence and causation are different. What's the difference between causation and dependence? Anyone have an answer? What's the difference between causation and dependence? So causation, the definition of a cause is something which gives rise to phenomena. So I can cause a house to exist. For example, I can build a house, right? So I'm kind of running out of space here. So I can build a house. This is me, and this is my house, right? So I built this house. But the thing is, I can die, and the house will continue existing, right? I don't need to be there in order for the house to exist. Dependency is different. Can someone give me an example of something which is dependent on something else? Causation is anything. Anyone have a, yeah?
Like humans are dependent on oxygen?
Yeah, okay. Humans are dependent on oxygen. So in order for humans to exist, we need oxygen, correct? If oxygen is not there, the human will not be there. That's a very good example. The example I like to use is like the sun with a tree. Because you can say that if the sun is not there, the tree will not be there, correct? Because the tree is dependent upon the sun. So the contingency argument works on dependence and not causation. Guys, here's the truth. We live in a world of possible existences. Everything around us is a possible existence. Everything points to the fact that there must be a necessary existence out there. So for example, going back to the tree example, right? We have the tree, which is dependent upon the sun in order for it to exist. The sun itself is part of its own order and part of its own set. The sun requires other things in order to exist. At the end of this, again, you need to have something fundamental, something which is necessary, something which is independent, meaning it's not dependent on anything else. And this is what we as Muslims know as Allah. So no matter how you try to think about it, on materialism, on dualism, on idealism, you must reach the conclusion that there must be a necessary existence which is basically holding up everything else. So a good metaphors are usually good to kind of give you guys an idea. They're not perfect, but you can think about it like this. Anyone here been on a boat before? Like a boat or a cruise or something? Okay. When you're on a boat and you're on the ocean, right? And you look down at the water, and I ask you, let's say I asked you a question on the boat. If I asked you, looking at the water, is there a sea floor all the way at the bottom? What would you guys say? Is there a ground under the water holding up the water? Yeah, it is, right? So that sea floor, the ground under the water, is supporting all of the water, correct? If the sea floor wasn't there, the water would not be there. That's kind of what God is. He is the sea floor. He is supporting all of the existence because He is the necessary existence. Now, atheists, okay, they're not stupid, okay? They know that there has to be a necessary existence. So here's what they say. They say, okay, fine, there's a necessary existence, but it doesn't have to be God. That's what they say. It doesn't have to be God. It could be something else. But the thing is, the necessary existence is our definition of God. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Say He is one and only. Allahu Samad, the one who is independent, self-sufficient. Meaning what? The necessary existence. لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ. He begets not, nor is He begotten. Meaning He is eternal. Pre-eternal, post-eternal. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. And there is nothing like Him. He's immaterial, incorporeal. He's not made up of parts like me or like this table or like my jacket. God is not made up of parts. So ultimately, no matter what way you look at it, you have to conclude that at the end of it all, in order for the universe to exist in the first place, we're not talking about causation. Even if the universe is eternal, wait a minute, did you concede to that? Yes. Even if the universe is eternal, you still need God in the picture. Because what does that universe depend upon? Even if there's a multiverse. What if there's a multiverse? You want a multiverse? Have your multiverse. It's fine. Even if there's a multiverse. Even if there's an infinite multiverse. Do you want your infinite multiverse? You can have it. No problem. Even if you have an infinite multiverse, you still have the question. Is it composed of parts? If so, it falls into the category of possible existence. What does that infinite multiverse depend upon? So you see, you still have the problem here. So at the end of the day, this is pretty much what is known in chess as a checkmate. Okay? We have read from Plato all the way to Leibniz, all the way through to Russell. This is the argument no one can solve. This is the uncrackable code. This is basically a hack. It's basically a hack. No one can beat this. So essentially, the Quran says, الذي خلق سبع سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور. Look at the sky. The Quran says, look at the sky. Let me look. Do you see any inconsistencies? Okay. Look again. The Quran says, look again. Let me look. Okay. Do you see any inconsistencies? This verse is talking about the fact that there is a coherency to nature. There's a pattern. We can comprehend the universe. We can rationalize the universe. There is a coherency to nature. Talking about this, the uniformity of nature. the fact that we can understand the universe, the fact that there's a pattern, the fact that we can make theories to try and model the universe, that itself cannot be explained in a scientific way. These laws of nature, the laws of physics, imply that there was a lawmaker. The fact that the universe has a certain order, there's an order to the universe, there's a uniformity to the universe, that can only be explained by God. At the end of the day, you can look at it any way you want, okay? Because people, even after hearing this, they still want more evidence. They're like, give me more evidence. After we have given you ontological, cosmological, metaphysical, a priori, a posteriori, physical, mathematics, scientific, probabilistic evidences, deductive, inductive, abductive evidences, asking for more, you know what it's like? It's like asking for a torch in broad daylight. It's like, give me a torch. Why do you need a torch, bro? Like, the evidence is all around you. We live in a world of possible existences. Everything is screaming God's name. So, you're locked into the argument. Everywhere you go, there's arguments. You can't get away from it. Asking for more evidence is simply foolish in my opinion. Even to the extent whereby we are born with the belief. The evidence is also within us as well. We are born believing in God. It's something which is innate to every human being. The Quran says, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقِّ. We will certainly show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves, until it has been made patently clear that this is the truth. So at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we can look at it cosmologically and see that God is the best explanation. We can look at it inductively and see that God is the best explanation. And we can look at it ontologically using the unbreakable code of the contingency argument and see that God is the best explanation. So no matter which way you look at it, no one can get away from this. It's a fact. God existing is not a theory anymore. It is a fact, and it has been since the beginning of time. So we have a meeting tomorrow. Today was confusing. Tomorrow's going to be controversial. So you'll understand what I'm saying tomorrow. You might not like it. So if you get triggered easily, maybe don't come. But I want to thank you guys all for coming. I know it's a bit of a confusing meeting, but if you guys have questions, I'm ready to hear them. But definitely, thank you guys for coming. See you guys.